He's the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Joining me here on this Wednesday program, he's Arthur Smith. How are you, Coach?
I'm doing great, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I noticed you called, like we were expecting you at 9:20 or something, so I'm Pacific, 12:20 Eastern. We're a couple minutes late for you. I apologize, but you were also a few minutes early. So do you have that Coughlin time thing going for
I
you
do not. I was just trying not to waste your time, Rich.
Oh, my gosh.
Trying to be on time.
Uh-oh. So I apologize if I'm wasting your time.
You're not at all.
Okay.
I enjoy hearing the stories.
Okay, no, good. Great. I appreciate that because I never know when coaches are being passive-aggressive with me, or that's just my own.
No, okay. I'm direct, Rich. I don't, no passive aggressive.
All right, so then let's get right into it. Coach, when did the Falcons appear on your radar screen? When did that happen for you?
Well, yeah, right when our season ended. We'd set up a Zoom. Everything was kind of like, I was joking, it was kind of like speed dating. And you had all these Zoom interviews where, from my understanding, years past, a team might have flown in or they would have flown me in just to start the first interview. So it was definitely interesting. Got to talk to a lot more people by doing the Zoom. But right after that Monday after our season ended.
So how, because I know meetings pre-pandemic would take hours and obviously presentations that you would have already. Is that how long, like what is an interview through, a head coaching interview through Zoom like? What is that like, Coach?
They were all different, depending on the team and how they structured them. I mean, most of them, they had an outline of, questions they wanted to hit, and it just depended on how many people were on the Zoom call. But, the thing that probably helped the most is since March of last year, everybody has adapted to Zoom. We certainly use it. I'm sure every NFL and college team in some way, shape, or form. So it's pretty familiar with the format. It would have been a lot different if we'd done this a year ago and I didn't know what Zoom was. But
right. Okay. And so who's your coaching influence? Who is that?
I've had a lot of them. I've been very fortunate. I was in Tennessee for a long time, was a part of a lot of different staffs. Certainly, coming from college, I was coached by a guy that had a lot of NFL ties, and John Bunning. And John had been around. He had been a Dick Vermeil guy, and he was influential to me at this, teaching me his perspective of the NFL. And then I got to Washington, got to work for Joe Gibbs. Stayed on through the Jim Zorn transition, and then when I got to Tennessee, Mike Munchak and Ken Wisenhunt, Mike Malarkey, and Mike Vrabel, and then I'm leaving out a bunch of assistants, but I've been fortunate. I've been on a lot of different staffs. So,
but when you I have a guest on, and it's the first time I'm interviewing you, and I kind of look up your history. There is a period in between the Washington time and then when you appeared at Ole Miss. What were you doing? Were you still trying to stay in football? Were you?
I was. In Washington, a big part of it was I had a great experience there. It was trying to transition out of there and going somewhere. There was no influence of my father, so that was really, I was looking for another job. I had a great. It's good when you get in those entry level, but really to make it on your own, you want to be somewhere to kind of separate yourself.
Yeah, your dad is the founder of FedEx, right, Arthur?
Correct.
Okay, so you like things done overnight? Is that basically the way you grow up, or how does that?
Well, certainly learned a lot from him.
Right.
It just depends what it is. I don't think I try not to be a snap judgment guy and try to think things through, but certainly sped up the world, that's for sure.
No, I know it must have been interesting working in FedEx Field too. Just all over the place. I don't know. You're making sure that the signs are all perfect as well as getting your job done. So I got Arthur Smith here on the Rich Eisen Show, and obviously, you got your hands full coming from Tennessee with everything that you've done there, and now the concept would be to replicate your success there in Atlanta. How much of a conversation in your Zoom talking to Atlanta was the future of Matt Ryan and your plan on that?
Well, it's really all the guys on the roster. When you start over at a place, there's obviously guys here that have been very successful and that we're excited to work with. But there's a lot of different factors when you're going in. Each job's different where you're at. This place, obviously, Matt Ryan's been here and he's had a lot of success, as Julio Jones has, and a lot of other players that have been here for a while. But you just got to take everything into consideration and know there's going to be changes as we go through the spring with Terry and I, and even into the summer.
Yeah, Terry Fontenot, the new general manager brought over from the Saints organization. So I'll just be more direct. What is Matt Ryan's future with your team?
Well, the same future as every other player on this team. and we're going to evaluate everything. We're excited about working with Matt, but I can't predict the future right now for you, Rich. But we got to get into it, and I'm giving an honest answer here. Terry and I, there's so much work to be done as you get through this roster.
And I guess the question about Matt it has nothing to do with his bona fides as a Falcon or a quarterback who can win in the NFL. I don't think that's at all the case. But we have seen what you did with Ryan Tannehill, just as for instance, and how dynamic his play was in your care, running as much as throwing. Many times you're on the goal line and or in the red zone in the 10-yard line and you got that battering ram in Derrick Henry, and sometimes you'd use Tannehill to run it, and that doesn't appear to be Ryan's game. Can Ryan work in your system, in your estimation, Coach?
Sure, we're going to adapt to the strength of the players. And we'll see. We'll see if we'll break out some speed option with Matt. And it certainly did it in high school. But there's a lot of things in being serious. I mean, there's things when I've taken this job. It's not like we're bringing Derrick Henry with us over here either. So you've got to adapt to who you got. Whether you've got more guys out there at receiver or tight end or running back, you got to be flexible.
So walk me through what it's like to call a play for Derrick Henry, Arthur. What is that like?
It's pretty easy. When you got a guy that can take it 99 yards, 94 yards, which I've seen him do it backed up, I'd like to sit there and say, hey, that was a great play call. But then it's like watching a great home run hitter.
Yeah, and then did you teach him how to stiff arm, Arthur, or you think that's really much innate with him? What do you think?
Well, it's something that Derek worked on, and certainly something that we emphasize. And Tony Dews, his running back coach, they worked on it a ton. Derek's got a powerful stiff arm. I think, sometimes during the years, you could see there were certain guys, the way they tackle, they're like, they just didn't want to be a meme. Be on the internet.
Unfortunately, they didn't want to be, but it's too bad sometimes you don't get what you want. I mean, my God, he is truly one of the more unique runners, and in your final regular season game of the year, it looked like he had, it's not looked like, he definitely had an opportunity to set not only the single season record for most yards in a season, but single game record for most yards in a game. And again, I'm just wondering what it is like to be an offensive coordinator and a system and know that you have number 22 running, and how that actually made your job, easier or more fun? I'd love to give you the floor on that.
Yeah, it certainly was fun. Obviously, just watching him in certain games that I'll always think back with great memories. Last year in the New England game up in the playoffs, it was like watching a boxer take over. It was just over and over. And really, those guys up front, they were rolling off the ball. And Derek, it was fun to watch. And then in the playoff game against Baltimore, and there's so many times during the years when he's changed the game. It's just different. When you got a guy, you can call a run, and he takes off and goes 75 plus. That certainly changed the Kansas City regular season game in 19. And there's so many plays you can think about it, but it's exciting when you know that every time you can hand the ball off, it could be a home run.
Arthur Smith, few minutes left with the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so what is the role of analytics? We hear so much. Honestly, sometimes I'm sitting there watching a game. I'm like, why are they going for two? Or why aren't they going for two? Or fourth down, why aren't they going in here? And then you hear, well, that improves 10% chance of this, 5% chance less for that. How much is that a role in what you've presented to Arthur Blank and what you plan on also putting on the field for the Falcons, Coach?
Yeah, it's all part of it. Part of the decision making. I think the more information you can have, the better it is for you. And then you've got to make that call. And there's a lot of variables you got to take in consideration. One way or the other. Some people say, hey, I'm only going to trust my gut. Other people say, I'm only going to trust the numbers, what the analytic data says. But I think you've got to. There's great tools. And then you got to make sure you have the right user using them. And that's what trying to present, to make sure we have all the information. It is kind of ironic. You get to this point, I wonder how many people can thank their jobs and really souped up titles to Billy Beane writing that book. Because it seems like he's created a whole industry of inflated it with everybody using analytics, and some people don't even know what that means when they say it. But
no, so what is it? I guess then what does it mean to you? For those who might need that sort of description, what does it mean to you?
It's more, it depends on what you're using for. In terms of scouting, or you're turning on situational data, it's just more information, and some is better than others. And every team that it's got some programs they use or people they hire and I just think it's part of the decision-making process. And so that's how we'll use it here.
And then obviously many coaches who are in this league who played the sport, not many of them come from the line. You played offensive line. You were a guard, and then you had some time on the defensive side of a line. How do you think that gives you maybe a little bit of an advantage or a different perspective as being a head coach in the NFL, Arthur?
Yeah, it certainly gives you a different perspective. You can't speak for other guys. I mean, there's been great coaches that have come to the quarterback position that seems usually a pretty fast track for play callers and head coaches, but there's other guys that have done it from different spots. Obviously, Braves, the guy, Mike Vrabel, the guy that just worked for him. And Mike was a defensive guy, but he could coach on any position on the field. He had a great mind for it. And then, guys I've looked up to. I don't know Andy Reid, but certainly I've always looked up to him because he was a lineman as well. And so you just see guys do it from other spots. Guys I learned from that did it from the tight end room. That certainly helped. But yeah, you use all those experiences. They're valuable.
Okay. And so does that mean there's a little bit of Taylor Lewan in you, or you and Taylor Lewan?
Could be.
What do you think?
I was just wondering, have you been on the bus yet?
I have not, Coach. And part of the reason why is I've called Taylor out for the bus not being able to actually run.
That's true.
Like I told him once he has a motor in the bus and that he does actually put the bus on the road, that's when I'll show up. I have a certain level and certain standard that I need to, normally I do make an exception for a Michigan man like Taylor. But,
right.
But
yeah, I'm just shocked you haven't been on there yet.
Well, I mean,
this is not.
It's not anything. I've made my position known to him. I mean, he knows. And my favorite thing was also saying that he was the full host of it, ignoring Will Compton completely. That's one of my other favorite things to do too.
Yeah,
that's just me. That's my own speed. Hey, Coach, thanks for joining. I appreciate this. Hopefully, this will be many different ways for us to communicate. And you be well. Good luck to you.
Thanks, Rich.
You got it.
Appreciate you having me on.
You bet.
Look forward to talking soon.
Right back at you. That's Arthur Smith, the Atlanta Falcons, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.